what should be the priorities of CFOs going forward in 2024?
Yeah, I think probably the top priority in any year is really just to manage the current economic climate situation that we're in, and how is that going to be looking like 6 to 18 months into the future, right? So I think McKinsey has called it to manage the next normal, right? Now, you don't know exactly what it is, but you need to be prepared and perhaps even act proactively rather than just saying, okay, we see what comes and then we act on it. It's a bit too passive. So I think that's key. The second bit is because we're in a more and more volatile environment and industries and businesses are changing at a fast pace, CFOs need to show more strategic leadership than what they have in the past. And I think there it's really about driving that conversation with the executive management team, understanding what options do we have available, what is the benefit case of those options, and what should we go for. Then driving the execution together with the different business leaders, and then of course following up on that as well. So that kind of strategic leadership is needed. And then from there, you need to drive growth, you need to manage the balance sheet, all these other priorities that we typically have. So I think those are the four kind of standard priorities that you would typically always have and expect from a CFO. And then you have the more emerging ones, managing generative AI. How is that going to impact our business? We have the whole talent agenda because talent is getting more and more scarce. And there are other bits like ESG, for instance, is a big one at the moment. And also how can finance collaborate better across the company and not just work in a silo. So I think those are some of the top priorities, if you ask me at least.
So when you say that strategic leadership for the CFOs, can you give a couple of specific examples like what they should do and what they should not do?
Yeah, so I'm really a big fan of how McKinsey thinks about strategy. So they've basically looked at 10 different levers for driving strategic value in the future, and which are really determining whether your company is going to be providing or driving more value than competitors and even companies in other industries as well. And there are some of those drivers that are historical based, so you can't really change them today, but you can, of course, think differently about the future. It's about the revenue, debt levels, and your R&D investments. Then there are some external trends, which, of course, you need to be aware of, industry trends and geography trends. Where's the growth going to come from? And then there are some more active levers that you can manage, which is like M&A, productivity improvements, differentiation improvements, resource allocation, and capital allocation. And I think especially on the latter five is where CFOs need to understand which of these levers do we need to pull as a company to generate value. And you need to really pull these levers hard, and you need to make some hard choices. Because if you're not making choices, you don't provide strategic leadership. And I think if you ask a CEO today, what are you going to do? They may rely on their gut feeling or their past experiences, but here's where CFOs can really do data-driven strategic choices. And by all means, that should be a little bit better than not having data-driven choices.
I think the main challenge most CFOs face or feel is that if you look around the different organizations, the culture and the way they are working in the organization, their governance model significantly changes from the size of the organization, smaller to mid-size to large organization, and also from region to region. What in Asia Pacific is very different than what in Europe and USA. And so it's very diverse, it's very global, it's very diverse, but it's very difficult to really come out with one trend. You could say that's the main trend for the finance function as a global function. And based on that, individual CFOs, not only CFOs, but individual professionals also face that challenge in this scenario. Let me turn gears here. Let me ask you a slightly different question. Going forward, especially in the AI dominance world, do you see risks for finance professionals losing jobs going forward?
So I think a general stat that always pulls out, and I don't know for exactly how big of a region or scope it covered, but it basically said that I think AI would destroy 70 million jobs, but it will create 90 million jobs. So I think the overall paradigm that we're looking into is that AI is actually going to create jobs, at least at a large scale. But of course, depending on the nature of the job you do today, it can certainly replace you, right? It can do the transactions for you. It can even do the analysis for you. So you need to continuously evolve and say, which are the skills that AI cannot easily augment? Exactly. And how do I develop those skills? And that's where it gets a bit difficult, but that is the challenge. You need to understand where is it that I have the edge over AI and then work on developing those skills.
Yeah, I think many people don't understand that, yes, when people or the press talk about the loss of jobs and the emergence or creation of new jobs, it's not going to happen that one day you lose a job and next day you get a new job based on the technology. There is a difficult process of job disruption or career disruption rather. And I think people need to accept that there would be some disruption, and they need to accept that today they need to learn and today they need to prepare for that disruption, which is very close to us. So that's also a lack of guidance and understanding from the viewer point of view.